Question. How do you make an asshole character likable? Do you A, have him act like less of an asshole, or B, just have other characters act like bigger assholes to him? Should be fairly simple, but I don't think the writers have figured this one out yet. Alright, after this episode, I'm not sure how I feel about Henry anymore. The good news is, I don't think I'm supposed to. The bad news is, I'm not sure the writers do either, because there's some conflicting information here, and I think some signals are getting mixed up. The episode begins with flashbacks again, this time to decades ago, and we check in with a baby metahuman Brainwave whose powers are just starting to manifest. He's leaving work, some carjacker thug tries to hold him up, but his telepathy kind of bursts forth and he accidentally kills the guy. And then he does what any newly minted supervillain would do in this situation. He starts a journal and admits to the death he was just responsible for on video. Back in present day, Henry takes another look in his dad's secret room and starts watching the video journal, of which there are many entries, all on VHS tapes. I'm impressed Henry even knew what those were. The first tape is Brainwave admitting that he killed someone and how he was denied funding for his experiments, so he experimented on himself and that's where his powers came from. And he heard the carjacker's thoughts. The man wanted to kill him because evil, but he fried this guy's brain and suddenly the headaches were gone. No more migraines. And all he had to do was kill a person. So day one of the experiment was a big success. Then, apparently this VHS tape only had like 3 minutes of footage on it. Weird. I haven't used VHS in a while, but from what I remember, they have more space on them than that. So Henry grabs tape number 2. Back in the basement, Courtney talks to Pat about how after the fight with Cindy, she could hear Henry's thoughts, and he was scared and confused and lonely and sad, and this makes her think that Henry might not be the asshole that they've been led to believe. Not like Cindy and Brainwave. So she wants to ask him to help them, because if he can read minds, then he could help them figure out who else is in the ISA. And that's a decent idea if you're right about Henry, but if you're wrong, you're exposing yourselves even more than you have already to someone who's potentially really, really dangerous. Not shockingly, Courtney hasn't really considered that. And because Pat knows Courtney wouldn't listen to him one way or the other, he doesn't even bother weighing in on this. Instead, he changes the subject to Cindy. He figures, best case scenario, the ISA were just hiding out in Blue Valley, but if Cindy is Dr. Ito's daughter, that must mean they're planning something. Pat has a bit of a history with Dr. Ito. Turns out that pre-JSA, him and Starman were part of another group, along with Shining Knight coincidentally, and they stopped a living weapon that Dr. Ito made to destroy New York. Because he's just a jerk. Pat lost touch with the other members of this group over the years, but thinks they need their help. But instead of reliable superheroes that they know they can trust, Courtney thinks they need Henry's help. Who do you think she's gonna go to? Speaking of Shining Knight, we cut to him at the school mopping up something when he hallucinates that his mop is the cosmic staff. It's not clear yet if he's got mental problems or if he was brainwashed at some point, but either way, the guy is not all there. Then we cut to Beth as she scopes out Cindy's house again. No one's home, and AI Chuck tells her that the school records say she withdrew from classes to study overseas with her stepmom. Because that's something Cindy would do. Even Beth thinks this is preposterous. And sure enough, down in Dr. Ito's lab, Cindy is locked up like a prisoner. She's yelling for her dad to let her out and threatens to kill him like she killed her mother if he won't. But she's making too much noise, so he tells one of his drones to gas her, just like they did when she was a baby. She tries to break out before the gas puts her to sleep, and it's not really clear why she can't. The cell door is just wood and metal, and she definitely has enhanced strength. The fights with Courtney made that pretty obvious. So beats me why she can't break that thing down. I guess Ito has the door reinforced with science or something. Anyway, the gas puts her to sleep and Ito gets back to work. because now that they've confirmed Henry is telepathic, they don't need Brainwave to make his machine work anymore. Apparently the machine does not run on pure evil like all his other stuff. Back to Henry watching the video journals. Brainwave talks about how he discovered that he can move things with his mind, and Henry starts practicing with his own telekinesis. He starts innocently enough, floating a bunch of VHS tapes around, but then he shoots a knife into a wall, and he's like, oh damn, that could really hurt somebody. How do I feel about that? Cut to the JSA kids. Courtney has explained her brilliant plan to ask for Henry's help despite the myriad of ways that could blow up in her face, and shocker, Yolanda's not on board with this. Rick doesn't like it either. He thinks Henry's just an asshole and people don't change. Also, this could be a trap, and Henry could be working with Cindy to set them up, which is so darn plausible it feels like something Pat would have said. That being the case, of course, Courtney doesn't listen to him. Beth agrees with Courtney, though. She thinks people can change. I mean, look at us. We've all changed. Have you? But yeah, Yolanda's not having this at all. She refuses to be on a team that includes Henry, and she storms off. Back to Henry watching the video journal. His dad tells a story about how he disobeyed his father this one time, so his dad hung him by his ankles over an open well. As you do. And this made him feel powerless, and he'd felt that way all his life. Until now. Also, he read some dude's mind on the subway who was thinking ugly thoughts about a woman, so Brainwave used his powers to make the man blind, and then push him in front of a car. Totally proportionate response. And when this man died, Brainwave's migraine suddenly felt better, until he read the next mind. And all he hears are evil thoughts, which makes him think that all people are monsters. And I guess killing them is like telepathic morphine that stops his headaches or something? I'm not too clear on that part, but the maid comes in at that point, and Henry hears her thoughts that she's worried about him, but he also hears her thinking that he might be better off if his dad died. I'm sure she meant that in a nice way, but he doesn't like it. Then he hears his dad's voice in his head and runs off. Cut to the ISA meeting room where Dr. Ito tells everybody about how Henry's telepathy will power his machine, which will be finished within the week, and with that, they'll be able to create a new America by taking control of every mind within 6 states. Only 6? Pfft, losers. Cut to Icicle at his day job looking at a bunch of pictures. I guess those were all the people on his kill list, when Barbara comes in. She apologizes for leaving the work trip early. Stupid daughter getting into a stupid car accident. But he's fine with it. The conversation quickly changes to Icicle finishing something he'd been working on for a while, but somehow killing all the people on his list of people to kill didn't bring him the sense of accomplishment that he thought it would. Time was, his wife would be the one to remind him what he was working for, but she's dead, so... Over at the hospital, Henry shows up to see his dad. He's hearing everybody thinking crappy thoughts, and it's not improving his mood at all. He tries to talk to his dad telepathically, it doesn't work. Then a nurse comes in, and Henry hears him thinking that he never liked Brainwave, and they should just take him off life support. Because all people are dicks. At this point, Henry's pretty much in agreement with his dad that people in general kinda suck. So there couldn't be a better time for him to talk to Courtney, am I right? She comes to see him, he hears her thoughts and finds out that she's the one who put his dad in a coma. She tries to explain everything and asks him to help her stop the ISA from killing more people, but he's like, nah, maybe people are just assholes who deserve to die. But she brings up Joey, who the ISA killed. Joey, who everyone seemed to think was the greatest kid ever, even though the chances that Henry would have been friends with a kid like Joey were about as good as Batwoman's chances of getting a season 3. Henry liked Joey. I don't buy that for a second, but okay. But he thinks that if his dad hurt people, then he had a good reason to. Because people are horrible pieces of shit, and hearing their thoughts is like hell on earth. But Courtney tells him that people can be good too, and if he looks deeper, he might see that. She thinks deep down people really just want to love and to be loved, and she thinks Henry does too. That's why he's here with his dad, even with how badly his dad treats him. And that was the wrong thing to say. She definitely hit a nerve there, so Henry tells her to get out. Courtney does, but she never takes no for an answer, so she says to come talk to her when he's ready. This was a good scene for the most part. Courtney didn't really do anything wrong here. She wasn't a brat or arrogant or anything. But I just can't help but laugh every time someone brings up Joey's death and how tragic it was and how everybody thought he was so great. When Joey was portrayed as such a geek, he would have gotten beaten up by Sheldon Cooper. One of those characters that are just begging to get punched in the face. He might have been a good kid, but there's a reason why Martin Prince on The Simpsons tends to get beaten up a lot, and it's not because everybody likes him so much that they just can't take it. Over at the garage, Beth and Rick show up to see Pat, and Rick asks Pat why he would let Courtney go through with her plan to talk to Henry. Nah, he thinks Courtney would listen to Pat if he told her not to do something. That's cute. Pat's looking through some old books, trying to find a connection between the secret passage in the school and the tunnels under Cindy's house. This is a really important job that could give them valuable information about how to fight the ISA, so Pat tells the kids to do it so he can f*** off. But Rick doesn't want to do that, so he f***s off too. He's got stuff he'd rather be doing, like decoding his dad's journal, but I guess it's not that important because he does this off-screen, and the next time we see Rick, he's back in the garage helping Beth with this stuff anyway. I'm assuming there was a scene where Beth dragged him back and the CW cut it for time. I wish they'd at least put those extra scenes on the website or something, but no such luck. So anyway, Beth finds something in one of the books. Apparently the tunnels were built by separatists who settled in Blue Valley in 1876 to live free of interference from the outside. And that must be why the ISA came here, because these underground tunnels let them go wherever they want. Seems like they made that a lot more complicated than it needed to be. Does this mean that the high school has been around since 1876? I doubt that very much. Cut to Barbara making food for 8. Pat really wants to talk to her, but Courtney stops him. He's sick of lying to Barbara and wants to tell her the truth about the Stargirl stuff, but Courtney orders him to keep his trap shut. Pat's really trying to put his foot down here, but the argument is interrupted when the guy who's been trying to kill them shows up at their front door with his whole family in tow because Barbara invited the big bad over for dinner. And not that coming clean to Barbara doesn't have its own complications, but this is the type of thing that might not happen if she were clued in, so Courtney might want to rethink her position on this. Back at the hospital, Henry gets attacked by Wildcat. She drags him into an empty room, and he can tell it's Yolanda immediately, which seems like something she really should have thought of ahead of time, but the plot needed her not to, so here we are. Yolanda tells him to stay away from Courtney. She thinks your soul is worth saving, but I know it isn't, and I should kill you! Proportionate responses right and left this week. Henry asks Yolanda point blank if she really thinks he should die for what he did to her, and yeah, she totally does. She sounds pretty eager to just slash his throat open and laugh as he bleeds out. This got dark real fast. So he reads her mind and hears her think, I trusted you, I loved you, but you betrayed me, so stay away from us! Okay. Couple of things here. First, it's really hard for Yolanda to be threatening when she's wearing the Wildcat mask. Change the mask. It looks f***ing goofy. And second, I'm really confused about this. Why does Yolanda think that Henry's the one who emailed her titty pics to everybody? He didn't do that. Cindy did. Yeah, he was showing the pics to his football buddies, which Yolanda saw and she was fine with, by the way, but Cindy did the mass email. And I rewatched that scene just to make sure. She sent the email from her own phone. So this shouldn't be a secret. So why does Yolanda think that Henry's the one who did it? And if that's what she thinks, why doesn't he just tell her the truth? And what's more, even the dialogue is suggesting that he's the one who sent the email, but that is not what happened. You think I should die for what I did to you? Dude! You didn't do it! Cindy did! What the hell is going on? Is this a retcon or discontinuity? I don't know, but either the writers are trying too hard to create a straw man here, or somebody screwed up big time. Back at dinner, Icicle's dad approves of Barbara, but his mom isn't crazy about Courtney. Yeah, join the club, Granny. Barbara's regurgitating a lot of Icicle's rhetoric about building a better America using the best building block there is. Families. So she's really drinking the Kool-Aid right now. Then Courtney gets a bowl out of the oven, she burns her hand on it so she gets an oven mitt, then she brings the burning hot bowl to Icicle, he picks it up, and he doesn't notice the heat at all. And on the basis of this alone, Courtney instantly thinks that her mom's boss must be Icicle. It's a bit of a stretch that she'd put two and two together that quickly, but frankly it's a lot more ridiculous that Icicle never recognizes Pat as Stripesy, seeing as how Stripesy didn't wear a mask back in the day. So take this whole scene with a grain of salt. So Courtney takes Pat aside and warns him, and in one of her less stupid moments, she considers that this might mean that Cameron is in the ISA too, like Cindy was. Cindy's more ISA adjacent, but okay. They get through dinner without incident though. There's a little tease of danger at the end, but nothing comes of it for now.
You know why I really came here tonight, don't you, Courtney?
I just had to meet the girl my son's been talking my ear off about. And you didn't disappoint, young lady. Keep up the great work. But Icicle's such a great villain, even when he's being nice, he still sounds creepy. The second they leave, Courtney rushes down to the basement to get the cosmic staff. She thinks maybe it can prove this guy is Icicle somehow, maybe it can recognize his scent or something like a dog. Meanwhile, their actual dog is setting up a dartboard with a picture of the cosmic staff taped over it. But Pat's really trying to hold his ground on this one and says they're not doing anything until they tell Barbara everything. And then Barbara walks in and sees the staff. I have no idea how Courtney didn't see or hear her coming down the stairs, but that's what the script said, so here we are. And now that they're gonna have to come clean to Barbara, suddenly Pat's just got nothing. And we end back at the hospital again. A lawyer comes to talk to Henry, says his dad left instructions that if something like this ever happened to him, his life support should only continue for so long, and that time is nearly up. So he tries to get Henry to sign something, and if this didn't seem shady enough already, Henry reads his mind and finds out that the guy is just trying to scam Henry out of his dad's money. A dishonest lawyer. Wow, who could have seen that coming? So Henry gets pissed off and he fries the dude's brain like his dad did with the carjacker. Oh no, a crooked lawyer died. That's terrible. And then Brainwave miraculously wakes up. The end. Okay, not as good as the last episode. I think we're backtracking on some of the characters, but still, not a bad effort overall. I appreciate the writers trying to make Henry more complex, but in doing so, they're kind of contriving the situation here. They need him to hear the worst things that everybody's thinking, to see the worst in humanity in order to get him to where they want him to go, but it feels flimsy when it happens with virtually everyone he's around. And then there's the Yolanda thing. It makes no sense that she doesn't know it was Cindy who sent the email, but even if it had been Henry, the fact that she's given serious thought to straight up murdering him for it says something really disturbing and irrational about Yolanda. But the fact remains, Henry didn't do what she thinks he did. So why is he acting like he did? Why doesn't he just tell her what really happened? Because if she knew the truth, then she wouldn't be so angry at him anymore and wouldn't be thinking those murderous thoughts about him that the writers need her to think, because those thoughts are confirming to him that deep down all people are monsters. So now, for no reason whatsoever, Henry's just letting Yolanda believe that he sent the email even though he didn't, and they don't seem to want to explain why. I see where the writers want Henry to go, but the method of getting him there isn't nearly as concrete as they think it is. Then we've got Courtney, who regressed on her development from last week somewhat, though that's nothing new. Again, we're back to her only thinking about her goal of defeating the ISA and jumping headfirst into whatever ridiculous thing she thinks will help her do it. Asking Henry for help without at least getting more information first was a crazy, stupid risk, and I thought Courtney was supposed to have learned something about taking those after episodes 7 and 8. Apparently not. Her scene with Henry at the hospital was good, though. I don't really buy a speech like that coming from Courtney, but at least her brattiness has been toned down. Icicle is still awesome. He feels even more menacing now that he's getting closer to Courtney's family on a personal level. No idea why he didn't recognize Pat, though. Come to think of it, Crusher probably should have recognized Pat too, but he didn't either. Weird. Beth was used in a way that felt appropriate. Information gathering is what the goggles are for, so it makes sense that she'd be doing this. And overall, I do think it works as a Henry Spotlight episode. I just think the writers want so badly for him to see the worst in people that they're putting him in situations that don't really feel like they were earned. So not as good as last week, but not a bad episode. I think we're still heading in the right direction with Stargirl. I believe there's 4 episodes left this season, so fingers crossed that they can keep this going. And that's all I got for now. If you enjoyed this review, I've covered every episode, so check out the playlist on the channel, ding that bell icon, and follow me on Twitter using the link in the description so you'll always know when I upload something. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed, because YouTube may have unsubscribed you since the last time you were here, and I'll be back with more very soon. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, wear a mask if you're going out for the love of God, and I'll see you next time.